Ingo.
Hi, Graham.
So guess what? It's time for
5 minutes with Ingo.
5 minutes with Ingo.
Excellent. All right.
So here we are at Strata+Hadoop in San Jose, and it's been a great show, a lot of activity, a lot of people. Tell me a little bit about what you're hearing on the show floor. Really, what's the hot topics?
It has been quite a day, has it not?
It's great, even if you compare this to the previous years. So in the previous years, everything was about understanding Hadoop, understanding big data, understanding those big data infrastructures.
Yep.
This year is a reality, and people have those data infrastructures in place. That's the way how they store the data, but they need really to make value out of this. And we talked about this a couple of times already. That analytics is really one way of doing this.
Right.
But the big problem I'm seeing at the same time, if I'm walking the floor here and talking to people, is also that they say, well, it's just not efficient enough. It just takes so long. It took us ages to actually get the data in there into some data infrastructure. No, we want to make or create value out of this with analytics, and how can I do this in an efficient way?
Okay.
So, and that's something I'm hearing here constantly.
So previous years was understanding and defining what big data is, what it means to organizations, how do they actually do something with it. Now they're trying to figure out ways to get efficiencies out of that so they can get to those insights, get to that action faster.
Exactly.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we help them understand that?
So well, just think about some use case. So of course we are always talking about predictive analytics here. The use case could be some standards, churn prediction, for example.
Churn prediction, okay.
Like a telco, you're losing like 30% of the customer base every year. You would like to predict who are the customers who are churning, who are switching over to competitors, and if you can do this prediction, maybe you can make them more sustainable.
Yeah, that's a big job.
The computer is processing the data. I will be notified as soon as there is any information.
It's a big job, exactly, and especially if you're a large telco where you have like 50 million, 100 million customers, you can't do this by hand.
No.
So you have all the big data, you have all the core record data, you have all this kind of things in your big data stores.
Sure.
But how can you build an analytical process on top of that? Now it's the fun thing. Nobody should believe that they're the first person in the world who are actually solving a churn prediction problem for the very first time. Well, let's face it, people. Our data is special, but it's not that special. The problem is not that. So other people have been doing this before. So I would like to compare this with this beautiful picture here.
Okay, this is Mona Lisa.
That is correct. And look at her here. If I would ask you now to paint the Mona Lisa and give you colors and paint and canvas and everything else, you could really do this.
No way.
That's what I thought. But there's a good way how to do this, and you see this on the back of this paper here. So you know this concept of paint by numbers.
I do.
So you just have a few numbers or colors like those here, and you just use those colors, well, in places where you find the correct number for the color. So this is something that you're following a certain path, a certain template. So other people, other data scientists actually have been already thinking about how to solve a churn prediction problem. And now you can use this template and you fill in your own colors, but you always have this chance actually to change things. If you don't like her brown hair, well, make her a blonde, why not?
Okay, but that looks, so I get this, but this looks very basic to me. I mean, I could do that, but my data's a heck of a lot more complex than that, or at least I would think so if I'm dealing with customer churn.
So, but let's think about how you're actually, as a data scientist, really solving this type of problem. So let's say you found a model which is pretty good, so you get whatever, an 80 or 90% prediction accuracy, and now you would like to optimize things, you would like to get a little bit better. So let's have a detailed look. Let's zoom in a little bit. Look at her beautiful smile here.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Oh, perfect.
I know. So, if you zoom into some details like the modeling step, and you would like to figure out what is the best model, what is the best parameter setting for a certain model type, you can actually make a zoom in, and then you can still use the same concept of paint by numbers.
Oh yeah, okay, sure. That's a little more complex.
Yeah,
all right, that's fine.
It is. So you can still use the same paint by numbers here on this detailed level. Use the same concepts of templates, but to become more efficient. So you build basically your analytical processes, your solutions on top of what other people did. And that's something which I think is now, you can see more and more often, because people realize, my gosh, we're doing similar, we're solving similar problems, we use similar data infrastructures, we do data scientists, but there are more out there. Other people are doing this, and they can build their results on top of theirs.
So part of the idea is, instead of trying to start from scratch every single time when you're trying to do something complex like a churn model, is either, find a way to accelerate what you need to do, or find other people who have done incredibly complex things, and then figure out a way to build upon those models.
That's exactly what I mean.
Perfect.
That was easy.
It was.
Thanks.
Thank you. And this has been your 5 Minutes with Ingo.